If you have rising consciousness and worse conditions, there's no question you're heading for the path of revolution.
So Bill Clinton was speaking at John Lewis's funeral and took jabs at another civil rights leader, which has led to a lot of anger online. And let me first show you the clip here. So Bill Clinton speaking here, comparing John Lewis to Stokely Carmichael, who later took the name Kwame Ture. Let me play this clip, and I'm also going to play a clip in a minute after this of Kwame Ture and the kind of fight that he had, and it'll give you an idea of why Bill Clinton didn't like him. But first, here is Bill Clinton at John Lewis's funeral.
And I say there were 2 or 3 years there where the movement went a little bit too far towards Stokely, but in the end, John Lewis prevailed.
All right, so it's kind of weird to be getting into this fight and using John Lewis's funeral as a way to take jabs at Kwame Ture. So Kwame Ture was also a civil rights leader. He marched with MLK. He's a Pan-African socialist. Look, I'm not a civil rights expert, but from what I am seeing online, it's Kwame Ture is somebody who stands up. His entire life, he stood up for people. And, I mean, as a socialist, stood up for people against the bourgeoisie. But first, let me show you a response here on Aaron Matei's clip of this from Theodore Adorable, saying, I met Mr. Lewis a few years back and respectfully mentioned that I preferred Stokely/Kwame's politics. Lewis wasn't offended and said something to the tune of, quote, I helped him as he was coming up. Why Bill's grinding axes at a funeral? Yeah. Now, let me give you, this is a great, I mean, there are so many great clips. Andre Demise here, if you check out, again, Andre Demise is a great follow on Twitter, but he has a number of fantastic clips here of Kwame Ture. Let me play this one, though. It's 2 minutes long. It is absolutely fantastic and will give you an idea of why Bill Clinton felt threatened by him.
We say the masses struggle, and then the capitalist system gives us an individual who advances, maybe the first one to work for IBM, the first one to work for Coca-Cola, who knows. And this first one is so confused that they actually think that by being a first one to work for IBM, that they have been a credit to the race. Indeed, they believe they have advanced the race. There's nothing but clear stupidity, backward thinking, confusion by the capitalist system. If the masses of our people suffer for our advancement, progress only comes when the masses advance. If the masses do not progress, there's no progress at all. If one knows this, there's no discussion about since the 60s. Certainly since the 60s, many individuals have climbed up. Some have become mayors, some basketball players, some football players, some on television, some movie directors. All of this is a result of the struggles of the masses of the people. But the conditions of the masses of our people become worse. For someone to discuss progress means that they're very confused. There's been no progress for our people. The conditions are worse. The only progress for our people is the rising consciousness of the masses, which will never stop. Aside from the rising consciousness of our people, the conditions are worse for the masses of our people. If you have rising consciousness and worse conditions, there's no question you're heading for the path of revolution. It's quite clear. We say you must not, of course, let the capitalist system confuse you. You must come for yourself to decide for yourself. The system makes you lazy, you know. I'm willing to bet you, without knowing any of you as students, this is my first time here in some years. I think it's my first time ever coming here, as a matter of fact. I'm willing to bet you that no more than 3% of the students here read books outside of their assigned books by their professors. If they even read that. If they even read that. But since you do not go out and look for your history, you take which is given to you, and you think what is given to you is what you're supposed to get.
All right, you know what? I enjoyed that so much. Let's play one more clip. I haven't watched all these, as he keeps adding to it here, but here we go. Let's watch this one.
Now, we must tell you in our analysis, we do not make the errors that others do. Anytime you make an analysis of an oppressed people in any aspect of their life and you leave out the enemy, you will never come to a correct analysis. On the contrary, you will blame the oppressed for all of their problems. Therefore, we tell you from the very beginning, We've never taken the line of others that the biggest problem that we have is we ourselves. No, our biggest problem is our enemy, capitalism, and it must be destroyed. We say any analysis you make of an oppressed people must include the oppressor, otherwise you will come up with an incorrect analysis blaming the oppressed for their position of oppression. Even if one were to talk about the drugs in our community, if you just talk about drugs and not talk about the enemy, you make no analysis at all. Or you may sound serious saying about, well, you know, the trouble with our kids is that all they're doing is fighting for drugs and shooting each other for drugs, and I wish they would stop. If you haven't brought in the question of who brings the drugs in, why the drugs are brought in, for what purpose they're brought in, you will never understand the problem at all. Thus we make it clear to each and every one, when we speak of the conditions of the African masses, we begin from the very beginning with the enemy of the African masses, all unjust system that seeks to exploit us, capitalism, and especially the racist capitalist system in the United States of America.
All right, so again, that was Kwame Ture. Let me give you, in case you don't know the spelling here. There you go. If you don't know too much about Kwame Ture, look him up, check out his speeches. You can clearly see why Bill Clinton did not like him. But still, to bring it up during John Lewis's funeral is just really, really odd. And a lot of people appear to be pissed off about it, as to be expected, as they should be. But yeah, check out Kwame Ture and get an idea of his politics. As clearly, you know, personally, my politics are always evolving. I agree with a lot of what is being said here, and I think it's important to expose yourself to some new ideas, some new individuals, some new figures, some new speeches to expand your learning.